Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney here, and I have the man himself, Mr. Rod Khleif. How are you doing, sir?
Good, brother. This is round two because, and I just have to thank you for having me on. You know, Austin and I were having an interview before, and I had an emergency with my daughter, and he was gracious enough to forgive me for that. Here we are. So thanks for having me back, my friend.
Thank you. You know, with you saying that, it reminds me of something really simple. You know, just because you have money and you're successful, life just doesn't care that much.
No. It's, you know, there's only one constant in life, and that's change. You know, everything in those, I haven't really talked about this publicly on the podcast, but, about 4 months ago, I mean, we were doing great. I've got 1,000 coaching students. I've got, I teach thousands of people a year about multifamily. I've got, thousands of apartment units, financially just killing it. My wife and I's relationship is amazing. And my daughter comes to me crying and saying inconsolably that she's got leukemia and 95% of her bone marrow. So on the drop of a dime, life can change. And that's the only constant. Now, as I was just telling Austin, we're blessed that it looks like the leukemia is in remission. She's still got some more chemo, but it's crazy. Life is crazy, and you got to kind of roll and duck and weave. And if I'm allowed to tell a little bit more of my story, you'll see that I've ducked and weaved a lot. So
you're welcome to take the road wherever you want to take it.
All right. Well, let me tell you a little about my story, because I think it'll add some value. I immigrated to this country when I was 6 years old with my brother Albert, my mother's Vansha. I was born in the Netherlands, in Holland. Wooden shoes, windmills, great cheese, and we came across on a big boat, actually. I remember my one memory of that is my mom crying when she saw the Statue of Liberty. True story. I was 6 years old. We ended up in Denver, Colorado, and we didn't have much. In fact, I remember eating expired food. We went to an expired food store. We drank powdered milk with our cereal in the morning, which I can promise you is not as good as it sounds. And, I wore clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army all the way through junior high school until I got a job at Burger King when I was 14, because I lied about my age because I was tall, so I could buy my own clothes and then ultimately buy a car. And, and I'm sure, Austin, you've got listeners that, may have had it harder than we did, or even have it harder now. But I knew I wanted more. And luckily, my mom had an incredible work ethic. So she babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat. And with her babysitting money, she was a bit of an entrepreneur. And in fact, I'm going to go visit her. She's pretty much almost in hospice now with my brother up in Georgia. And I'm visiting her this weekend. But anyway, I digress. But she was an entrepreneur and a huge inspiration for me. She invested in the stock market with her babysitting money. She also bought real estate. So the first real estate acquisition was a house right across the street that she bought from us. Bought from a family named the Jewels for us. And we rented it out. And she paid about $30,000 when I was 14. So this is 1974. When I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep. I'm like, what? You didn't do anything and you made $20,000? Screw college, Mom. I'm getting into real estate. So I went out and got my real estate broker's license. I wasn't just an agent. I was a broker. I could have my own office. You could do that with education back then, but I was a broker right when I turned 18. Now they got smart. You need some experience to be a broker, but I was going to be rich selling real estate. Well, my first year in real estate, I made about 8 to 10 grand. Again, this is 44 years ago. Second year, maybe 10 to 12 grand. But my third year, I made over $100,000, which back in 1980 was pretty decent change. So what happened between year 2 and year 3 that caused me to 10x my income? Well, what happened was I met a guy. I was actually dating his daughter. And he taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology, and how really 80 to 90% of your success in anything is just that, your mindset, psychology. Only 10 to 20% is the mechanical information. If it was just the technical knowledge, there'd be a bunch of wealthy librarians and college professors out there, right? It's the do and it's the keep doing. It's the pushing through fear, pushing through limiting beliefs, or maybe even just getting uncomfortable. We know the comfort zone's a nice warm place, but nothing freaking grows there, right? And so anyway, fast forward to today, I've owned a couple thousand houses that I've rented long-term. I've owned thousands and still own thousands of apartment units. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. And you might be like, wow. And I was like, wow. And, you do the math on that. So it's like $8,300 an hour over a 40-hour work week for the year. And I thought I was a freaking real estate god. Okay. My head got so big, I could barely fit it through a door. And when that happens, God of the universe might give you a nice little smackdown. Well, that was 2008. I lost that 17 million and a lot more. I actually lost $50 million in 2008 and 9. And so, if you ever listen to my podcast or any of my material, I talk about the mindset it took, first of all, to have 50 million to lose in the first place, but then to recover from that to the success that I'm blessed to have today. And so, happy to drill down on that as much as you like.
Yeah.
Austin.
God, so much there. And I think that's where I want to stay and kind of start is the mindset to make it in the first place. Mm-hmm. And then what extra it took to kind of reconstruct your mind when because I would imagine
believe it or not, it's similar. Believe it or not, it's very similar. Yeah, it's very similar. And I can tell you the big thing is knowing what I wanted and why I wanted it, and that's how I got what I had. But then to when it all fell apart, reassociating with what I wanted and why I wanted it. Because listen, when something negative happens, it's very easy to focus on that. As human beings, we even communicate with pain. I'll give you an example of this. If you come up to me and you say, "Hey, Rod, how you doing?" I'm like, "Oh my God, I am freaking fantastic. Life is absolutely unbelievable." Well, you'll take a couple steps back and say, "Okay, Rod's off his freaking meds." Well, but if you came up to me and said, "Rod, how you doing?" And I said, "Oh, dude, my back. Oh, good Lord. I couldn't sleep last night. I just lost 10,000 in the market, whatever, blah, blah, blah." You'd put your arm around me and say, "Oh, brother, I feel you." We connect through pain. And so and so it's really important. And this is what I had to do. If something negative happens to you, a couple of things. One, you stop focusing on it, because whatever you focus on gets bigger, and for a while, that was my story. Woe is me. I lost 50 million bucks. Woe is me. Not for long, a few months, honestly. But, I got to give myself a little credit. I mean, I thought I was set for life and I literally lost it all. But, then I recognized that, well, there were several things that I did actually, but one of them was reassociating with what I wanted and making that my focus. In fact, and here's another thing. Now, I don't call them failures. I call them seminars, because it's only a failure if you don't get the lesson or you don't get your butt back up to go make it happen. And that was a $50 million seminar. But believe it or not, I've actually built 27 businesses. I was blown away when I did a count. I actually sat down and counted it. And several have been worth tens of millions of dollars, but most have been spectacular, flaming seminars, right? And so, we failed our way to success. I was in a mastermind and I got to meet the billionaire owner of Spanx, Sarah Blakely. Started with $5,000. That's the women's undergarments that holds everything together. Anyway, she started with $5,000 and I think she just sold it for several billion bucks. But she told me that her dad used to ask her and her brother on about a weekly basis, "What have you failed at this week?" And I thought, what an awesome freaking question to ask your kids so they don't fear failure. Yeah. So anyway, one of the big things was reassociating with what I wanted and why I wanted it. And in fact, if you ever come to one of my boot camps, I think my next one's in the end of July in Denver, and I'll give your peeps a hell of a deal if they want to come, if you want to learn multifamily. But the first thing we do is a goal setting workshop on steroids, because how do you get anything if you don't know what the heck it is? You need to know what it is you want with clarity, because what you have to do is you have to create what Napoleon Hill in his book Think and Grow Rich calls a burning desire. You got to want it, because it's that burning desire that gets you to push through the fear, push through the limiting beliefs. Like, when I was going through school, I got picked on a lot. I didn't speak English, and my mom thought it'd be a great idea to send me to school in wooden shoes for show and tell, and those leather shorts the Germans wear for Oktoberfest. So they call them lederhosen, those shorts. And I got my ass kicked again. And then, and then the bullies would chase me home, and my mom would chase them off with a fly swatter. Okay, butt kicked again the next day, and I created this belief system that I wasn't good enough. And, and a lot of people have these negative, these limiting beliefs. I'm not old enough. I'm not young enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not analytical enough, whatever. And there's a reason the acronym for belief systems is BS, because 99.9% of them are BS. But, it's that burning desire that will get you to have those few seconds of courage to push through that BS to take action. And so, like I said, you come to one of my boot camps, that's the first thing we do for about an hour and a half. And if you're not interested in multifamily, I did this, what I do at that boot camp, on my Facebook page on January 1st of this year. And if you DM me on any social channel, my team's even got me on freaking TikTok now, but if you DM me on any social channel and just say, can you send me the goal setting link? I'll send you a link to it. It's free. I'm not going to sell you anything. It's got a guide. It's professionally done with music. And it's really a cool thing for you to do, and then even bring your spouse in to do it as well, and see how aligned you are in your goals. If you've got teenage kids, have them do it, and get them charged up. But anyway, so that's one of the biggest things, was reassociating with my goals. And I can talk about a lot of other really important pieces if you'd like. Yeah, or I could describe that goal setting workshop if you'd like as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think the question first is like, what when you said you had to reassociate with your goals, what was the goal? What was the burning desire?
Well, I had material goals, the stupid shit like the Lamborghinis and the Rolls Royces and all this stuff that I got, but that I thought was important at one time. It's not important to me anymore. But let me drill down on my goal setting workshop, sure, because I think it'll help answer your question as well.
Okay.
So here's what I want you to do, guys. If you're listening, if you have the ability to take some notes, it'll be really helpful. But again, if you DM me on any social channel, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, you name it, TikTok. I couldn't spell TikTok 90 days ago. Now I've got videos on there that have had 700,000 views, just mind blowing. But anyway, DM me and I'll get you that link to the goal setting. But here's the process if you don't want to do that even. So pick an hour when you have a lot of energy. Make sure you're well hydrated, and don't do it right after a meal. And sit down and write down everything you could ever possibly want in life. All the stuff, the houses, the cars, the jets, the boats, the whatever it is. And take the lid off your brain. If you want a jet, if you want a yacht, a private island, just write it down. It starts the process. Okay. And, but all the stuff, the places that where you want to place, maybe a second home, a new home, the jewelry, the clothing, everything, all the stuff. And there's nothing wrong with stuff. Okay. You were meant to get stuff and share it with other people. It's a beautiful thing when you have the ability to share your stuff with other people. But, also write down how much cash flow you want from your investments, say in 3 years, and then again in 10 years. Write down how much money you want in the bank, say in 3 years and 10 years. Write down, right. Also, when you run out of stuff, write down all the things you want to do in this lifetime. Maybe you want to write a book, or places you want to visit, all the stuff. I've got a friend that's climbing every mountain over 14,000 feet in the entire world, so stuff like that. I jumped out of a perfectly good airplane a few years ago. I'll never freaking do it again, but it's off the list. That was a big fear of mine, heights. But, all the stuff you want to do as well, and things you want to do. And then also write down what you want to learn in this. So it's not just the stuff, it's everything you want to do, be, or have. I'm going to tell you what's sad, Austin, is people spend more time planning a birthday party than they do designing their lives. This is designing your life. Okay. And here's the thing, just the simple act of writing the goals down triggers something in your brain called your reticular activating system. And what that is it's this subconscious filter that your brain points you in the direction of what it thinks you're interested in. Okay. It filters things out and points you in the direction of what you're interested in. And the greatest example of this is when you first buy a car. You never really noticed them. You buy it and then you see them everywhere. Were they there before? Of course they were. And it's the same thing with your goals. And if you write your goals down, you reassociate with them regularly, your brain will point you in the direction of things that'll help you achieve those goals. So write down all the things you want, all the things you want to do. Also write down everything you want to learn. You want to learn a foreign language, write that down. You want to learn a skill, write that down. If you want to learn multifamily, for God's sakes, come see me. In fact, let me just mention that. I've got a boot camp July 29th, 30th, and 31st in Denver. If you text the word Rod to 72345, you can come for $197. And I don't sell any. It's not a sales pitch. It's total training for 3 full days. It's truly a duh if you're interested in real estate. If not, it's cool, but I wanted to mention that. And I'll do that for your peeps. Just text Rod to 72345. If the price has gone up, DM me and I'll give you a code to get in for the 197, because ultimately it'll be about $600 or $700. But you can come from 197 if you're a peep of Austin's here. Okay, now, so everything you want to learn. Lastly, write down everyone you want to help, okay? And the things, we will do more for others than we'll ever do for ourselves. And again, this is the fuel to get you to take action. So write down who you want to help. Like for me, I bought my parents a house here in Florida when my dad was alive. I bought him a car, took him on cruises. So who do you want to do things for? Use that, okay? Then once you can't think of another thing, there's a couple more steps. One, I need you to, I'm sorry, my Slack channel went off and it totally distracted me. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Stop messaging on interview. Okay. Sorry about that. I need to learn how to put the do not disturb on there. I can't even spell the word technology, so it's embarrassing. But anyway, so once you've got all your goals written down, write down how many years it's going to take you to achieve every one of those goals. That makes it real. Put a number by each goal. Put a 1, a 3, a 5, even a 10 or a 20, recognizing that it's human nature to overestimate what we can do in a year, and then massively underestimate what we can do in 5, 10, or 20 years. Okay. And I'll give you an example of this. And when I was 18, I knew I wanted to live on the beach, and there's no beach in Denver, and I would visualize, the palm trees and the surf and the sand and the waves. And 20 years later, I built this $8 million, mansion on the beach. On the beach on one side, I had my boats on the backside. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just telling you that, to take the lid off your brain, because that starts the process. And that honestly, that was unthinkable when I was 18. Yeah, I wanted it. I dreamt about it, so on and so forth. But I didn't really believe it when I was young. But then I knew I was going to make it happen ultimately. And that's really important as well. But anyway, so put a time limit on each goal. Then there's the next thing I want you to do is pick your number one goal. I mean, that goal, when you get it, you're like, oh my God, you've arrived when you achieve that goal. Pick that goal, put it on another piece of paper. And if there's 2 or 3 equally exciting, just pick one. It won't matter for what we're going to do next. Then I want you to pick your top 3 one-year goals. So you're putting your number one goal and your top 3 one-year goals on a separate sheet of paper. Leave some room in between them. And I will tell you, at this point, you're ahead of 99.9% of the people on the freaking planet that do a New Year's resolution that's forgotten by February, right? But there's one more step. I need you to write down underneath each one of those goals why it's an absolute freaking must for you to achieve it. Okay. It's the why that's going to drive you. And it's the why that drove me to have the 50 million that I lost, and to get back to the success that I have today. It was the why. And so, write down why it's an absolute must for you to achieve it, and use emotionally charged words. Words are very powerful, like amazing, beautiful, incredible. So you might say, so I can show my kids what incredible abundance looks like, or success looks like. So I can show my wife what it means to have a life of complete freedom. So we can have the unbelievable freedom to do whatever we want, whenever we want, wherever we want, bring whoever we want, whatever is going to juice you, write that down. And once you've got some positive reasons why you have to achieve those goals, I mean, they're a must, not a should, they're an absolute must, then put one little twist in there. Put some pain in there if you don't achieve them, and make it freaking hurt. So I don't feel like a failure. So I don't fail my kids. So I don't fail my wife or husband. So I don't live a life of regret. So make it hurt. Here's why. As human beings, we'll do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. And you want to use this. Again, this is the fuel to get you to take action. And I'm going to tell you, don't have a life of regret. There was this nurse in Australia, hospice nurse. So she was taking care of patients when they were about to die. Her name was Bronnie Ware. And she asked him a question, Austin. And the question was, do you have any regrets? And she wrote a book about it. It's called The 5 Regrets of Dying. You know what the number one regret was? Not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. Guys, I can't think of anything worse than that. So this is what prevents that from happening. And then the last thing is get pictures of your goals, put them around you, put them on your screensaver. I've got them on my wall, and I'll give you some examples of this. Jim Carrey's a great example. When he was flat broke, he wrote himself a check for this, pictures or declarations or mementos, I should have said, but he wrote himself a check for $10 million. And when he was flat broke, and he used to go, this is the actor, the comedian. He used to go up by the Hollywood sign. He would visualize cashing that check. He'd pull it out and look at it and visualize cashing it. So much he made for Dumb and Dumber. I'll give you a more recent example. Demi Lovato, the singer. When she was unknown about 11 or 12 years ago, posted on social media, one day I'm going to sing the national anthem in the Super Bowl. Well, don't go watch this last one, the one before. She was saying the national anthem. And I'll give you some personal examples from me. When I was 18, I was a real estate broker and I was going to be rich selling other people's houses. Well, I figured I had to have a 4-door car to show houses, right? So I bought this bone ugly Ford Granada. I mean, this thing was a piece of crap, bench seat in the front, but I figured that's what I had to have. Well, the guy I told you I worked for, he had a couple of Corvettes and he let me drive one. And I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. And so I got a picture of a Corvette out of a magazine. This is before the internet. And I put that on the visor of this Granada. And within a year, I had a beautiful Corvette. A couple more quick examples. Please know I'm not bragging because this stuff doesn't even interest me anymore. This is back when the TV show Magnum PI was out. Actor was Tom Selleck. And he was the detective in Hawaii. And he drove this Ferrari 308. It's the first time I'd ever seen an exotic car. And I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. So I got a picture of that actual car, put it on the visor of that Corvette. Every time I sat in there, it was right there in front of me. Within a year or two, I had a Maserati, looked just like it. Last example. I'm the guy that always wanted a Lamborghini. I talked about this earlier. And I had posters in my bedroom growing up. And my son actually collected models of exotic cars. He had about 30 or 40. In fact, they're in my attic here, my compound. And he had a model of the exact same color and style Lamborghini that I ended up getting, which I wrecked. But anyway, so get the pictures, put them around. In fact, I'll show you something. Do you put these on YouTube?
Yeah.
So this is my planner. Okay. It's on today. Okay. In the back of this thing. And you guys that are listening on iTunes can't see this. But I'll describe it. Guys. Yeah. I've got pictures of that I've had in here for over 20 years. Okay. Over 20 years. Now, the first pictures are my gratitude pictures. These are pictures of my kids when they were very young. Guys, why? Because everything you bring into your life, you bring in with gratitude. It starts there. It's the most important emotion we have available to us. So these are pictures of my kids when they're young. My kids are 30 and 26 now. The daughter I was telling you about, she's 30. So anyway, then I've got pictures of things that I wanted. This top picture looks just like the house I had on the beach. I had 10-foot high glass like that, butt together. I had travertine floors. Now, what's crazy is I lost that house and all the craziness, but now I live in a compound. I have 6 buildings, a big main house and a beautiful 2-bedroom guest house on the water and a media building where I've got a video studio now because I had to go virtual because of COVID. And if you look at these bottom pictures, you guys can't see it, but Austin can. You see those white walls in those 2 bottom pictures, Austin? Those white concrete walls? That's a picture of my backyard. Look behind me. You can see that. You can see the white wall. Isn't that crazy? And I mean, this is before I ever built any of this. And by the way, because God's got a sense of humor, I can see my old house that I lost right across the bay. It's literally right out my backyard. It's really funny. But then I've got, stupid shit like watches. I got a few $100,000 worth of watches. That's still kind of a vice of mine. I'll be honest there. There's a Lamborghini before I ever got it. Mm-hmm. The Rolls, the Bentley, all this stuff that I got because I had pictures. So again, you may not have any interest in this stuff if you're listening to this, but replace that with the stuff you want. Pictures work, guys. I'm just telling you. Anyway, drop the mic. Sorry, that took a little longer than I anticipated.
No, but, it's perfectly because you're calling it into yourself. You're it's very simple. And it sounds odd to say, until I declared it to myself, nothing happened. Until I literally said it out loud in a car, I know exactly where the fuck I was. Mm-hmm. Until I called it out, nothing happened. That's
right. That's absolutely right. You've got to declare it to the world. And I would tell you, be very, very careful who you declare it to, because especially when it's just a dream, because it's a fragile thread when it's a dream, and that thread can be broken. So be very, very careful that you surround yourself with people that empower you and lift you up. Like my students, my warriors, they're called. I have about 1,000 now. They bought almost, I think, 60,000 doors. I've only been teaching about 4 years, but that's a supportive environment. They're building each other up every time one does a deal. They're praising each other. You want to be around people like that. be very careful, because there are a lot of people, because of their fears or their jealousy, or they're afraid that you're leaving them behind and it'll make them feel bad about themselves. They will negate your dreams if you're not careful. And I hate to say it, but sometimes they're family. And what I would tell you, if that's the case, is love your family, but proactively choose your peers and who you allow to influence you. So, that's another piece. Yeah.
So what is your advice to anybody out there that's, I've heard of different from a million different people, you have to start in single family, you have to do this, when somebody asks you that question, where do you tell people to start?
No, you don't have to start in single family. And I did. And frankly, most people do. And here's why. Because we have a courage muscle. Okay. And as we do deals, that muscle grows. And I've interviewed, I've got a podcast called Lifetime Cash Flow. I'm blessed to say it's the largest commercial real estate podcast in the world now. We've got over 12 million downloads. And so I've had the largest multifamily operators you can imagine on the show. I mean, people with 20,000 doors, 100,000 doors, tons of people with 5,000 doors. And, and very often I will ask them this question. And because I know what the answer is going to be almost every time. And I ask them, if you could tell your 18-year-old self what you know now, what would you do differently? And I know what the answer is going to be, but I want my listeners to hear it. And that is go bigger, faster. And they all say it. And so, there's my answer to that statement about going single family first. I'm going to tell you, multifamily is easier. It's safer. It's logistically easier. I will never buy another house unless it's something for me to live in, ever. And I've owned 2,000 of them that I rented long-term. I had 500 houses in Denver. Now I do wish I still had those. I sold those to move down here to Florida. Yeah.
No comment.
No comment on that. But anyway, but I multifamily just for so many reasons is better. And in fact, when I crashed and burned, I had 800 houses along the Gulf Coast of Florida, and I had several apartment complexes. It was the houses that pulled me down, because for a lot of reasons, taxes are higher here in Florida because there's no state income tax. I had properties in wind and flood zones, higher insurance. But what really killed me was the logistics. If I sent someone to one of my apartment complexes to fix a maintenance issue, a maintenance guy, everything's the same. Plumbing's the same, the electrical's the same, HVAC's the same, appliances, windows, locks. You can stockpile parts and they can be in and out in an hour. Well, if I had to send someone to one of my houses were, 2 hours one direction, 2 hours the other direction, everywhere in between. It could be an hour just to get to the house, see what's wrong. Every house is different. Then they got to go to a Home Depot or a Lowe's where we had an account. That could be another hour round trip. And I don't know about you, Austin, but when my happy ass goes to fix something in this house, I invariably end up going back to Lowe's more than once. And so, and these maintenance guys are no different. And that's what killed me. That was a big piece. And the second big piece was, I didn't pay attention to demographics. A lot of my renters were jobbers. They were contractors, plumbers, electricians, drywallers, painters, roofers. And that fell off a freaking cliff in 08 and 09. They didn't have any work. And so, now I pay attention to where people work. I didn't back then. If they had good credit and they could pay the rent, I let them in. But, we bought an apartment complex in San Antonio about, a few months ago, and 296 units. I literally looked where every single one of them worked. And I looked at, that employment to measure, recession resistance and COVID resistance and so on and so forth. Hit me once, shame on you. Hit me twice, it's my own damn fault, right? So,
that's an amazing point. I didn't even think about the logistics of the single family. So if people want to find out about you, they want to follow you, they want to listen to the podcast, where do they do that?
Yeah. Well, my podcast, I think you'd really enjoy it, even if you're not interested in multifamily real estate, because, I'm known for mindset. And I do these clips every week called Own Your Power. They're 5-minute clips. And I promise you give me those 5 minutes, I will juice you for the week. I will motivate you. And that's what I love doing. But of course, I interview some of the best multifamily operators on the planet. It's called Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. But if you want to come to my website, I've got a ton of free resources. Nobody can spell my name. So if you go to realestatewithrod.com, it goes right to my website, rodkhleif.com. And there's videos, articles, books, everything's free. Tons of great resources there. But listen, if you're serious about this, for God's sakes, come spend 3 days with me in Denver. $197 if you text the word ROD to 72345, or go to multifamilybootcamp.com. Again, if the price has gone up, just DM me and my team will take care of you and get you that price, even if the price has gone up. But, again, it's not a sales pitch. I go through every aspect of this business, building a team, finding deals, evaluating deals, financing those deals, syndicating them, joint venturing, property management. And of course, I spend a lot of time on mindset, because you got to take action with what you learn. And I will tell you this, and I will say this publicly: if you don't freaking love the event, I don't mean like it, I mean love it, you DM me after the event, I'll give you your money back. No problem. Okay. It's never happened, but there's always a first time. So, and I've had thousands and thousands of people attend. I'm not exaggerating. I mean, thousands.
I got a lot of friends that are successful because of you. So
thank you, buddy. I didn't know that. Thank you.
Yeah. So, guys, if you get some value from this, send it to a friend, share it with somebody that gets some value, and we'll see you next time, guys.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.